Welcome back to my channel, you guys. If you're new around here, go by Conscious Babe here on YouTube. And today, you guys, we are going to be talking about some sensitive topics. So just make sure that you are in a comfortable, safe space to receive these possibly triggering sets of truths. And without further ado, let's get into it. So as someone personally who has went down a rabbit hole of dating guy after guy without truly ever being satisfied, being placed in traumatic situations, being made uncomfortable by men in my family. The list just goes on and on. I can definitely say that all those experiences had left an imprint on my womb. The womb definitely remembers traumas, and as does your whole entire body, which is why sometimes emotional states of being can manifest themselves into physical ailments and disease. When I was going through this whole period very, very bad, I definitely realized that I was sick more often, had body aches more often, immune system seemed to not function as properly as it normally did. What else? Let's see. Stressing about finances, just a lot of stress, anxiety, tenseness throughout my entire body and outside world, as well as my inside world. Growing up and looking back, I definitely think there needs to be a deeper conversation had with young girls rather than the conversation of just stay away from boys. And in school, sex education only covers the biological aspects of sex, but nothing further. But I think sex is so much greater than biologics, and conversations need to be had with both young men and women and girls and boys about this, so that we can set people up for success in their adult years, and to help to cultivate this higher consciousness of love and things that come with love. When I was going through this whole period of seeking intimacy, community, understanding from my dating experiences, I was so much in this need energy that I tended to lower the standards I had for myself and the men that I was dating, which opened the door to me ignoring red flags, which ultimately led to me having these negative dating experiences or aspects to my dating world. But yet I still remained in this cycle of dating just because of what I thought dating was providing me at the time. It's kind of similar to an addict, whether that be an alcoholic or a drug addict. They are fully aware of the heavy usage of their drug of choice is causing, sending them down a path of demise. But because of what that drug is temporarily giving them, they continue to do it. And same thing with this whole cycle of like dating and things like that, dating wrong and the wrong ways and things like that. I feel like it's kind of like similar lines of thinking in that sense. You do something and associate certain feelings with certain things so many times that you kind of get used to it, and it kind of develops into a habit. So that definitely is what happened in my personal life. It got to a point where during self-pleasuring moments, I could not reach an orgasm, and it was like my womb was just shut off and began to associate negative things with sexual energy. Therefore, I could not reach a peak. Therefore, I could not seek any type of pleasure with being in this sexual energy. I became very, very tense. And then after my very first time with sharing my body with someone to the ultimate level, which, he had my consent, it was very consensual. We were in a situationship at the time and things like that. After that, I literally remember thinking to myself, I will never ever do this again. Not because it was painful, not because of anything like very, very big and that happened. It was more so I just felt very unsatisfied. I felt guilty. I had all this guilt attached to what I just had done. And there was almost a sense of devalue that I felt, as if like me partaking in this sexual encounter somehow took my worth down a few points, if that makes sense. So I very much felt like I was devalued, deflowered. I lost something, which is why I changed my language further on to stop saying the word lose virginity. There was also this sense of me feeling like, what was the point of me even doing that? Like, I kind of sort of felt a sense of regret, just because I felt like there was no romance involved. There was no intimacy. I was left unsatisfied. So I thought to myself, what was the point of even doing it? Like, it was not an experience that I enjoyed. And I feel like that is a story for so many of us. And yes, I understand that was very much my first time, but still, like, the level of intimacy that I crave and needed was not there and provided. Therefore, I felt all these things. No aftercare was given and things like that. So that just further developed my sense of distrust and anxiety, which attached itself to sexual experiences. So definitely after that, I became more and more tense, and throughout the years I had a couple of makeout sessions here and there, because I'm grown. But even during like the makeout sessions and things like that, I feel as if I never truly let go. Like, I was always on edge. I just remember being hyper aware of everything else outside of the actual kissing and embracing part of the makeout session. I was always hyper aware of his hands are getting a little lower, like I feel like he's about to go in my pants. I don't want that. I was just hyper aware of trying not to allow this man to escalate what we were doing to sex, and I was always on guard of that, and I think that really affected me from actually enjoying it and opening up and fully just embracing this moment with another being. And I was always hyper aware of that because I had experiences where my no to them meant, I'm just not warm enough yet, or a maybe later, or it was a lot of crossing boundaries when it came to that and things like that. So I just automatically, whenever it was, no matter if it was the same guy or not, I was always just on edge and hyper aware and not truly being able to enjoy the moment. I think just hearing some of the stories from the women I had grown close to over the years, and hearing what they had to say about certain things. I feel like when us women or us girls or us feminine beings come around each other and we feel safe and secure, we tend to open up about our sexual experiences. And sometimes we can get a little morbid into like kind of joking about it in a kind of morbid way of coping with the fact. Or though in those conversations, I found there's a lot of like brushing it off, and I shed tears for my sisters because too many of us wombs have sustained wounds from just the various experiences we've had. I think I've always been the type that would much rather lay around and make out and embrace each other for like hours and hours rather than go all the way. I've always been a person like that. But oftentimes, way back when, I just felt this sense of obligation to give that guy what he was begging for. That in itself, not really wanting to go all the way, but yet feeling this sense of obligation and guiltiness that you are not providing this man what he wants. I feel like that in itself gets kind of downloaded and stored within you, especially when that other party is very kind of non-understanding and very adamant or aggressive about it, and kind of puts you through a guilt trip of not wanting to. I feel like that all gets stored and downloaded. I remember even going to, way back when, going to an annual woman's health visit at a gynecologist. It was a new gynecologist. This was my first time going, and I was scheduled for a pap smear. So I got that done, and I remember my doctor, when she put the speculum in, and this is a period where my my body is still very tense from all the things that I experienced in the past. So when she put the speculum in, I just remember feeling this just pain, and my body tensed up, which made the pain worse. And I had a full body tense, and I yelled out, ouch. And instead of the doctor kind of like consoling me or reassuring me, she just told me to lie still. And that when she said lie still, that kind of just echoed in my mind, and I kind of just did what she said, lied still. And that experience in itself is just like an example of like how different these experiences are from each other, but they all kind of like correlate to developing this sense of tenseness and this sense of distrust when it comes to anything that involves your yoni or anything that involves sexual space. The level of intimacy that I craved was very different from my suitors. Therefore, we just didn't align in that aspect. Also, during this period, I found that I was in need of understanding about my stance on certain things and why I didn't want to go all the way from the men that I was dating. So I had this problem with oversharing. I was oversharing my stance on things, and that tended to worsen my situation because oversharing with the wrong people tends to give them ideas rather than understanding. Somewhere down the line during this period, I think even like makeout sessions with people, any type of romantic space with anyone just didn't appeal to me anymore, because when dating the average dude or the average dud, they think a kiss means panties are dropping, and that is not always the case. Okay, sometimes you just be wanting to kiss without the panties being removed. Okay, I would say towards the ending of this, being in this very heavy energy and this heavy period in my life, I feel like during the end of this, I stopped dating as a whole, and I stopped sharing romantic space with people in general. And when I did this, I could now bring myself to an orgasm, and I was very, very excited. This seems like very weird to say, but I was very, very excited because it meant that my inner work was paying off. Having to drink before a sexual encounter or having this full body tense when in sexual space with someone has to be visited. And I remember I tried opening up to family members about all that I experienced, but because I come from a long line of women who also has had their own sexual traumas and childhood traumas, this is not really a conversation that can be had, especially when that family member has not even started to visit their own traumas. This conversation just cannot be had. So because of this, I feel like this is something I really had to handle on my own without outside help, because I didn't feel like I was getting the emotional support that I could have used during this period of my life. Instead, I was being met with more kind of tough love kind of energy, or being pushed to the side, or just kind of put at a distance. That's kind of how I felt that was happening to me. Coming from a family that's very, very avoidant, I feel as if, I just didn't get the support that I needed during this time frame, which is okay because, I am strong enough as a person to be able to, I had to make the choice to handle this on my own, and to not depend on anyone else for a helping hand. It's just in knowing that some of the women in my family have definitely experienced some things similar to what I had to experience, because generational traumas tend to manifest themselves into future generations when they aren't visited. So me knowing this, I know that some women in my family could have offered me some sort of insight, and knowing this, like, I try not to get angry, upset, or disappointed in the fact that I could have been offered some sort of helping hand, a listening ear, or just a shoulder to cry on. But in the same breath, when the matriarchs in your family have not began to even visit their own traumas, me talking about my stuff may in some sort of way trigger them, and they may not be ready to be triggered. So I try not to be disappointed, sad, or upset when I remember this time in my life and how I wasn't really supported. It's like I've seen so much from just like my own experiences and the experiences from the women that I have been surrounded by throughout the years. I've seen boyfriends, long-term boyfriends, I'm talking about 5-6 years together, cheat and don't even allow that woman the liberty of going to get tested before he come back home and brings something back home where she is now, hurting and things like that. I've seen long-term boyfriends, I've seen a lot from so many different types of relationships, marriages, situationships, and it really doesn't matter. These things can show up in so many different types of relationships. Like, it really doesn't matter. So I just think whatever romantic relationship you guys have, whether it be marriage, just dating, situationship, it doesn't matter. I think it's just very important for you to absolutely know with every molecule of your body that this person has the utmost respect for you, your health, your mental health, your emotional health, just everything. Because sexual relationships do put you in this sort of vulnerable position, and if that person does not have the utmost respect for you, that vulnerable position tends to not be a good place to be in. I've seen people, specifically men, because this has been my experience, get into this headspace of, just to put it bluntly, just wanting to fuck. And I mean that in the most vulgar way possible, because that is the energy that I get from people when they are in this headspace. So like when that's at play, it can be a slightly dangerous situation to be on, depending on that person, because at that point you're not seen as an equal anymore. It's more so as an object. And knowing that sharing sexual space or having sexual encounters with people is you trusting your health and with them in all aspects, and me knowing that, I think I have found peace and celibacy is such a safe space to be in, just because I know what sex means for me personally. It may not mean the same thing to other people, but for what it means to me and the ways it affects me, I think that, I have found celibacy such a safe space to be in. And for others, that just may be a good healing factor, may just be, having encounters with people who actually do care for them truly. So whatever path you take, it's just everybody's path is going to look different. I just knew celibacy for me was like the first step I had to take in order to focus on, healing those wounds that I had, that was allowing me to be so tense and to associate all these negative feelings with sexual energy. Moving forward, I have come to terms with the fact that I crave and desire something so much more deeper than just a casual hookup or just a situationship with no real intimacy. Like, I crave something so much deeper than that. So moving forward, I know that my sexual partners, if I ever choose to go down that path again, where I open myself up like that, they will have to have the utmost respect for me and my body and my health. My next partner will have to be kind, gentle, and understanding, and allow me space to actively heal, as well as assist me with positive associations with sex, to further help, me heal. Looking forward, I now know what type of partner will allow me to feel comfortable enough to open myself up like that, to continue to heal and dig through the things I need to dig through, and to show me the flip side of sex, one that is loving, passionate, and is a healing practice rather than a traumatic one. But yeah, you guys, I know this topic is a very sensitive one for many of us, but this conversation must be had, of course, when you're ready. And making this video, I just really wanted more people to know that they are not alone in this, and that you do not carry this alone. So I really hope this reaches the right person who needs to hear these messages. And I really hope in some way, shape, or form this gave you a sense of knowing that you are not alone in this, okay? We in this together, okay? But anyways, you guys, before I go, I'm going to show you the crochet skirt that I made so I can leave with a more positive note, okay? Because I feel like we were in like heavy vibes, okay? But the conversation needs to be had, okay? So let me show you the crochet skirt that I made completely by hand, okay? How do I do this? Okay, let's do this. Okay, completely by hand, you guys. It's giving earthy vibes. It's giving. I made this when I was a little thicker, okay? So it's a little loose around the waist, but nevertheless, I can still fit it. But yeah. So you guys, I just want to reiterate that you are not alone in this. And with that, I hope to catch a vibe with you guys soon. Peace.